have to unmute. Good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're well.
We are doing fine. We are doing fine. We are doing very fine.
Great.
Hope you are well too.
I'm actually not so well this morning. I'm under the weather, but we thank God for life and for being able to be here. You were gunning for that victory, and Bibibo, Bibiaba. The question is, what does this mean to you? And on the back of that win, how do you feel?
Oh, okay. Quite. I mean, I had my primaries, got an orphan constituency last year in September.
Oh,
So
right.
I was not part of the elections over
You
the
weren't
weekend.
part of the recent one.
Yes, but I'm excited for the party that the party has gone through this phase peacefully. The National Party has organized one of the most peaceful elections in the history of NPP, and so I must recommend the General Secretary and the National Executive Party. And so I'm excited, especially looking at the energies that we saw from the polling stations, the electoral area coordinators, we saw from the voting centers. What it tells me is that the NPP is ready to run the 2024 elections again with all its arsenals intact. So it's exciting. Even though I am not a part of those that had a vote was cast on them, I'm excited about the outcome.
Right, and my apologies for that because you've actually been here having lots of conversations. Just skipped my mind. We've heard the president say that he is confident elected parliamentary candidates would help secure victory for the NPP in the 2024 election. But we also see that a number of stalwarts in this administration have actually lost their places, including the likes of Frida Prempeh, who is now minister. She was the replacement for Cecilia Abena. Dapa Frida Prempeh. She has lost her constituency. Some other stalwarts, I believe the Deputy Employment and Labor Relations Minister also lost his. Let me just walk through. And interestingly, our very own Joseph Kujo, a Member of Parliament for Ifia, who is also Minister for Public Enterprises, lost out as well. Bright Reku Brobe lost out in Pifu Heman Dentra. Of course, I've mentioned Frida Prempeh. There's, I'm looking for some of the others. Sheila Bartels, well, she is not a serving one, but at least that was another interesting one. Tina Mensah in Wejagbawe, among others. What do you think this means, some of these stalwarts, big wigs that lost out in this election?
I mean, I think that it's a natural process. For every elections, you would have some stalwarts fall along the way, so it's natural. But what rather excites me is those that are going to replace the stalwarts who are falling off. Are equally top-notch people that would serve the purpose of parliamentary practice. If I could go to Honorable Frida Prempeh's replacement, which is Gideon Boakon, undoubtedly you would admit that is a fantastic person who comes to fore with a lot of experience, starting from Care University to regional party in Ashanti region, through to being with the vice president, speaking for the vice president, and the exposure and experience he has now. I doubt that anybody will not be convinced he will do a good job. I mean, Sheila Bartels was beaten by KF3, who was beaten in the 2019-2020 primaries by Sheila Bartels. So KF3 is just a comeback to Parliament. That should tell you that Parliament is not losing substance. If you look at Tina Mensah, who lost to Jerry Ahmed Schreib, who is CEO to Koda, I'm convinced beyond every reasonable doubt that Jerry is a fantastic replacement. So all I'm saying is that it is not entirely strange that stalwarts, as we call them, lost. And what is much more exciting is that Parliament is not going to lose out, because these are people who are already experienced, who are already exposed, and understand the job of parliamentary practice and processes. And so, yes, it is an exciting news that once in a while you have fresh legs entering Parliament, fresh legs contributing to the debate, fresh legs engaging mindsets to bring new things to Parliament. And so we cannot have
Doc, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Right. You said something about, I think at a point you couldn't hear what I was saying. You said something about they're already understanding the parliamentary processes. I don't know about that because while a number of them are in government, serving in different ways, they have never been in parliament. That's the point to make. That's one. And two, is it not also testament to the fact of the establishment candidates that were fielded, that were put forward, including the likes of Dr. Gideon Boako, and which led to their wins? There were some cases where these establishments, so-called establishment candidates, did not make it, but there were quite a number of them, and a number of them also got the nod. Is it not because of the support from the powers that be which led to this?
First, let's take the parliamentary process I mentioned. I mean, I think as far back as 2004, or no, 2006, 2007, John Scubly, no blessed memory, he was the spokesperson, I think, for Parliament. Then the Parliamentary Services Board, I mean, then he set up some team to form various parliaments in various universities that started training people to understand what the parliamentary process is, to get people to go through the process and all that. So one may not necessarily be a parliamentarian, but he may or might have been trained to the point where he appreciates at least the basis of parliamentary process and practice. And again, someone who is an astute politician like Gideon Boako, who has gone through the mill from like the university through to the regional party to be with the vice president of the land. I don't think that he comes to bear with no experience in parliament. I said Ekwe-Free, who has been a member of parliament before, lost and she's coming back. You cannot convince me that her first 4 years in parliament, she led nothing, and she cannot come to bear or to the floor with anything. Jerry Ahmed Shoaib is an excellent lawyer. He's contested to be MP before. He's gone through the process before and understands what he's going to get himself involved with. This person is not somebody we cannot be convinced that will go to parliament and not add up to parliament. So I'm saying that, yes, they may not have been in parliament as in the parliamentary chamber. Some have been there before and they are coming back. But these people are people who are already exposed to the politics and the body politics. And so going to add to the parliamentary debate with the knowledge they already have, that should tell you that they are going to add on. Now let's come back to the establishment candidate argument. Really, I don't know what that means because we all have friends.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do know what that means. When the president goes in certain areas, or some people, some stalwarts of the party go to certain areas and certain comments are passed and all of that, people who work in the thick of the executive, you can't tell me that it is not some lending of support. You can't tell me that, can you?
I mean, that is true. But what I was going to say is that we have had people who by definition of establishment candidates had or have been establishment candidates who have enjoyed every resource there is a need to enjoy, not in terms of money, but every resource, and they've still lost elections. I mean, there are people who have been seen to be pro a particular institution and have still lost elections. What it is that if you don't endear yourself to the delegates, and you are not with the delegates, and you are not in touch with them, no amount of endorsement from the president or from the regional chairman or from the constituency chairman would get you to win. There are several examples, and I wouldn't want to mention it, so it looks as though I'm speaking against such people who lost. But the bottom line is that there are copious number of people who were perceived to enjoy some level of protection, some level of blessing, some level of endorsement, and still lost the elections. All I'm saying is that even if you get that establishment candidacy blessing, you the person would have to be in touch with the people. And once you're in touch with the people, they would select you against any other and it's several. It's happened to me before, and I know what it means. You have to be with the people to be able to win elections, delegate elections.
Right. We've already mentioned Jerry Ahmed Shoaib, of course, taking that seat, Weija, Agbawi constituency. Here in the Ayawaso Central, where in fact our office is located, the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Quartey also won. He actually got past Moses Abor, who actually put forward what you could call a respectable fight. There also was Domeko Abenya with Michael Quay Jr. and seating, if you like, Sarah Adjua-Safo. An interesting one there. He always gets people laughing. The one who called young men with beards coconut heads, and passing some comments that some have found unsavory. But he says he is the undefeated, undisputed heavyweight champion politician of Adanse Asokwa. You know him, Kobinata Hero Hammond, popularly known as KT Hammond. Which other areas? In Asante Akim South, unfortunately, Bice Osei-Kufuor, aka Obuo, could not make it. There was Vincent Asifwa. He was able to retain his Old Tafel constituency seat, among others. But two areas I quickly want us to look at very briefly in a minute, both of them, before we get into the papers. One, Bantama Raphael Ejapong with a failed bid to take over from Francis Asenso-Boakye, the Minister for Works and Housing, and the entire talk before the primary by Kennedy Ejapong that, look, if you vote for Francis, I have stuff on him, I'm going to expose him, he's corrupt and all of that. And then also looking at some of the scuffles, tussles that took place. There was one constituency where someone was beaten to a pulp, taken to hospital with gashes on his face. Then Yendi. In Yendi, basically, there was some, I'm not so sure whether indelible ink was being used, but there was some claim by someone, at least per the report, who is with the Shani Abibata camp, that the EC official who was counting hers had indelible ink and was marking hers, literally destroying them, pounced on that EC official. Others followed suit. At the time, if memory serves, the Member of Parliament for Yendi, Farouk Aliu Mahama, had chalked 226 votes, which had been counted. This happened. The ballots were torn. A media person from City was assaulted, supposedly, purportedly by the Member of Parliament for Yendi himself, and all hell broke loose. That was what happened in Yendi. What do you make of these two incidents? Bantama with everything else and Yendi, briefly.
Bantama, I mean, what you said is true, but the exciting thing is also that right after the elections were called.
Yes, Ralph accepted.
Yes, I saw Ralph walk all the way from his side through the people to the minister to congratulate him and pledge support to him and assure him that they were going to fight the race together. What Ralph is going to be the uniting or the uniting factor. He would have to draw our own former member of parliament for Asan Central to the center and get them to bind. You know, we all know the love Honorable Kennedy Ejapong has for this party. I mean, at times emotions get a better part of him, but the love he has for the party is undeniable. And I'm convinced beyond every reasonable doubt that beyond Bantama, he's going to get on board, going to get on a campaign trail and fight. In fact, he was in my
You speak of his love for the party. He's been rejected at the presidential primary. He got more votes than many people would expect, almost 40%. But he was still rejected. Now his brother has also been rejected. I don't know how deep that love runs. They say blood is thicker than water, right?
No, that doesn't erase the love he has for the party.
I'm not saying it does, but I'm saying you can't just assume the man is happy.
No, he, like I said, he may not be happy. I've heard him. In fact, prior to the 2020 campaign, I was with him. I mean, he had issues, but I saw the energies he put up in my constituency in 2020, and a lot more of those constituencies in Central Region. So I'm convinced that once they sit behind the table and get to understand him and get to engage him, the love he has for the party would go beyond the pain and the immediate hurt. And I know him too well that he's going to let it go. You would be amazed the kind of campaign he would put up for the NPP in 2024.
Right.
Now for
Yendi
and its associated reportage. Before man and God, I am not on top of issues in Yendi. I've heard piecemeal of the issues raised, as in somebody beating an indelible, someone tampering. The question is that how many sports ballots were declared? Because if the losing candidate or the one who has been declared as a failed candidate, if the EC was double tampering her vote, those votes should turn out to be sports ballots. How many sports ballots were declared or was declared? If we have those numbers and the numbers are high, they probably will have a reason to say that it is true. But if the UC you say is tampering your vote and messing up with your ballot, then what it will mean is that, and then we cannot equate those messed up ballots to sports ballots. Then it means that it will be much ado about nothing. So let us. I mean, it's just Monday after the election. I'm sure that we'll have clarity on the narrations, and then we can take a decision on that. But I'm convinced that the gentleman I know in Farouk would want to do anything unprofessional and unexpected of him. But like I said, it's early days yet. We want to hear the stories as they unfold, and then we can run commentary on them. How we want to take lead of the conversation. I want to have the full-fledged information, and then we can take it from there.
All right. Let's move forward with the stories in the papers. And the Daily Graphic this morning, 7 distinguished personalities receive Africa Prosperity Champions Awards. There's also GRA backs 113 billion Ghana cedis in 2023, highest collection in 20 years. There's Jayadec selects strategic partner for alumina refinery and bauxite mine. And then NPP Primaries, 10 ministers axed, 10 retain candidacy. So I'll start from there. 10 ministers and deputy ministers lost their bids to return to Parliament on the ticket of the governing New Patriotic Party in last Saturday's internal primaries, as 28 incumbents failed to secure victory for their seat. Key among them are the Minister of Public Enterprises and Member of Parliament for Ifia in the Western Region, Joseph Kujo, Minister of Sanitation and Water Resources and MP for Tano North in the Ahafo Region, Dr. Frida Prempeh, and Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection and MP for Wale Wale in the Northeast Region, Hajia Larba Zuweira Abudu. Dome Kwabenya MP, of course, we know that she has also been in charge of procurement, and the later Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection, Sarah Joasafo, also lost. Mr. Kujo lost his 4th term bid to an officer of the GRA, while Dr. Prempeh, like we've mentioned, lost to Dr. Gideon Buako. Now, Dr. Kabiru Mahama, the technical advisor to the Vice President. So Dr. Prempeh lost to Gideon Buako, spokesperson for the Vice President, Dr. Mahamadou Baumia, while Hajia Zuweira Abudu lost to Dr. Kabiru Mahama, with whom I've had some very interesting conversations in this studio, technical advisor to the Vice President. So if you look at some of the other big losers, Isaac Kwame Esiama Itrumamponua was defeated by Seth Osei Akoto. Sheila Battels in Ablekuma North. She also lost her bid to the Deputy Ghana Ambassador to China, Nana Ekwia Owusu Efriye, and it goes on and on. Now, in terms of suspended polls, the polls in 4 of the constituencies were suspended over different issues. The elections in Agona West in the Central Region, Mampong, and Obuasi West in the Ashanti Region were injuncted by court actions, while the polls in Equiapim South in the Eastern Region were suspended because of a petition by the constituency executive. In Yendi, in the Northern Region, controversy ensued between the Electoral Commission before the Electoral Commission could declare the results, leaving the outcome in abeyance, reports Mohammed Fugu. It was the 3rd national vice chairman of the party, Alhaj Masaudu Osman, who declared the incumbent MP Farouk Aliyu Mahama as the parliamentary candidate elect for the constituency. So note what is happening here. In Yendi, controversy ensued before the Electoral Commission could declare the results, leaving the outcome in abeyance. That's as what Mohammed Fugu of the Daily Graphic reports. But it was the 3rd national vice chairman of the party, Alhaj Masaudu Osman, who declared the incumbent MP Farouk Aliyu Mahama as the parliamentary candidate elect for the constituency. Alhaj Osman announced the votes for Mr. Mahama as 495 out of the 785 valid votes cast. And I've seen something from the office of Shani Abibata, his contender there. We'll leave the NPP to resolve those matters. But of course, if anything is true about the assault and other developments in Yendi, then it paints a very, very sad picture. Let's get into some other stories. I'll look at page 45, come back to the international front, and then we can get your responses. So, 7 distinguished African personalities have received various awards at the maiden edition of the Africa Prosperity Champions Awards. The awards which organized Africa Prosperity Network, which organized the regional series, the Africa Prosperity Dialogues, presented the awards as part of the 2024 edition of the Dialogues. The President, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, and several other dignitaries from across Africa graced the occasion. Awardees were the President of Côte d'Ivoire, Alassane Ouattara, the President of Guyana, Dr. Mohamed Irfan Ali, the 6th Commonwealth Secretary General Baroness Patricia Scotland, and the Principal of Mwale Medical and Technology City in Kenya, Julius Mwale. And those are some of the comments that came through, at least what we get from there. Any quick thoughts, any reactions to any of these before I go on the international front? Some international stories, but any thoughts?
Like I said earlier, it's those that lost their elections and their replacements have made arguments that NPP is not going to lose quality in Parliament, because those that are coming in are equally as good as those that we are losing. The only lesson is that everybody could lose an election. For my own uncle, Katie Hammond, being an undefeated champion, I mean, you may disagree, but he's run the race for almost 24 years. That should tell you that he's.
I don't know what I am disagreeing with. I didn't disagree with.
No. When I say not just your person, we are talking to people, so others may want to contest that the fact that he's an undisputed champion, as he put it. But largely, like I said, what is important is the energies within the party. The energies that the political party base, the police station executives, the electoral area coordinators, the energies they have to want to work now, and the excitement that has come to the base is what excites me. And I am sure that we would fight. For the Farouk Yendi story, I have said earlier that coming days would bring clarity. I'm convinced beyond every reasonable doubt that the political party NPP has more than enough energies to be able to correct the wrong, if there were any. And so let's take our time. Let's hear from the national party. I'm sure that the national secretary is going to take Justin Frimpong Kodia. He's going to take reports from his national officers and regional officers across the country. And if they believe that something untoward happened, I am convinced that the right thing will be done. The only assurance is that we should take things slow in Yendi, not to hurt each other as a political party, so that whoever it is that the party, if it's Farouk or we have to go for a rerun, the party will solidly be united for the 2024 elections. For the party needs every single seat in the 2024 elections to be able to run the country if we win. And so yes, for the awards, I mean it's long overdue. There are people scattered around across Africa, the continent, that are doing marvelously well. And so if their efforts have been recognized and the kind of effort they've put in their various endeavor is good, and African Prosperity Network sees it worth the while that those people should be awarded, why not? And so yes, I think that we are getting there. I think Mo Ibrahim, yes, I think so. Mo Ibrahim, is it? Yes, used to. I don't know if he still runs that awards.
The awards.
Yeah, those are things that brings democracy, brings governance, brings innovation to fall or to bear on Africa. So yes, of course, I support anything that would promote the African agenda.
All right. Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso quit ECOWAS regional bloc. We know the details of that. Just yesterday, they announced they were quitting the bloc. The bloc had not been supportive of them, and they passed so many comments on why they were leaving the bloc. But of course, there are protocols and a year-long, bond to the tenets of the bloc before they can finally move away. So those three countries, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. Then hundreds protested violence against women. Demonstrations are taking place across major cities in Kenya to protest against the rising cases of femicide and other violence against women. That's the killing of women. Hundreds have gathered in Nairobi, Nakuru, Mombasa, Nyeri, and Lodwar, some carrying placards with the names of those who were killed. I am always passionate about women's matters. I had to bring that matter to the fore. U.S. to evict Gabon, Niger, Uganda, CAR from trade program. You can see from some of the names why. And Joe Biden has stated his intention to halt the participation of Gabon, Niger, Uganda, and the Central African Republic in the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA. Now, when you see names like Uganda, of course, you also begin to wonder, on the back of what the World Bank has been saying, whether they are not being targeted because of their stance against the LGBTQI and the bill that was passed into law. I always say that I like looking at these matters from two different points. Yes, protect the LGBTQI community. Don't treat them as though they were any less human. But also, on the other end, do people get punished because of a stance against that, whether culturally or otherwise? But the main matter I would want to dwell on before we leave the Daily Graphic. President commissions $2 billion Central oil refinery in Tema. It's situated on 100-acre land, and this is under the one district, one factory policy. It can refine 5 million barrels of oil per annum. But here's what. Forget about this whole talk about one district, one factory. I see that to be a bit of a, pardon my word, sham. This is only 500 meters away from the Tema oil refinery. The same Tema oil refinery that for years we have left to rot. It's becoming like another Komenda sugar factory. That is what is happening. Tor, at a point, single-handedly, was contributing about 5% of Ghana's GDP. We've left it to rot. Petroleum refinery is one of the most lucrative things that can happen in any country, and we're producing oil. If we're refining here, what would that do even for the cost of fuel and fuel products, petroleum products? Yet we've left it to rot, and we are supporting the Chinese to establish. Basically, it's the death knell. We are killing Tor once and for all. There has been talk about people, and in fact, mind you, the experts or expertise in this area is limited. So guess where Santo is getting employers or employment from, where it is picking people from? Yes, you guessed right. A chunk of it is coming from Tor. People who are working part-time or will eventually move because Tor has become a white elephant. So 500 meters down there, I've heard stories, reports from people deep, neck deep in the industry that people are even stealing some things from one entity to another entity. You know which one. I'm not going to say it myself. It broke my heart. And we have the president and this entire entourage there. Are we that, you know what? Let me leave it here. If you have any quick thoughts, we can take it, Doc, and move on.
Yes, of course I do. I think that you cannot also undermine the fact that, you call the 1D, 1F element of the central refinery as a sham. I think that is not fair because really...
Well, I said it and I'll reiterate it because of what I know. Not all of which I would say here on air, but you may not be privy to some of what I know, but I feel that whatever the circumstances, this is more of people tied to certain people, benefiting in certain ways. Doesn't make any sense to you. Let me ask you. Does it make any sense to you that Tor is sitting there and yet we are making a beeline to go and inaugurate another place when Tor, we've not put in the effort? Have you followed the story of Tor within the last few years? Does that make any sense to you?
I have. I'm just going to get to the Tor element. So what I'm saying is that whatever information you have, whatever information there is that is available to you may not be available to Ghanaians and a lot of us. But what is available is that there is good news that some certain amount or some investment has gone into a refinery through private partnership. That is good news. Now, for Tor, I think not long ago, I may not remember the dates and the timelines, but I remember the Minister of Energy tried putting up some form of a, let me call it a package that would seek to bring back Tor onto its feet. It received some revolt. I mean, it's disheartening that Tor has not been able to get to the point where we all want it to be. But I don't think that it's been left to rot. So what we can appeal and what we can hope for is that the energies there is that we expect to be put in is put in. But again, if we know people are stealing some product from one end to the other, then reasonably, I would want us to proceed and get those people maybe to be arrested, because then they are if I'm assuming it's from Tor to some other entities. If it is, then they are making the work of reviving Tor very difficult, and that those people will have to be arrested. If we have that information, then we have to make it available to the authorities that be. But like I said, I have heard the Minister of Energy. I don't remember because I don't remember the fine details, but I remember not long ago some package, and it received a lot of backlash even in Parliament, where the Minister of Energy, Honorable Matupoku Prempeh, take up some documents and bills and whatever to Parliament to see that we can look at reviving Tor, whether through private partnership with some other entities. So all I'm saying is that it is good news that the Central Oil Refinery has come to bear. It is not that government has left Tor to rot entirely, and it's also good news that government has put in some effort to revive it. We may ask for more, that is fair. However, if you also know any other groupings that are doing things that will make the work of reviving Tor very difficult, then we may have to get them to do what is right.
Right. I'll just end by saying this. Though I know a lot of young people are leaving Ghana in droves every day, I see them in some places trying to go to Canada and the rest. That is all how I'll end. The country is ours, and no matter how it goes, we'll all be in there, regardless of political shades, colors, lenses, tincture, benefits. I've always said that politicians look at what has happened to some, I will not mention names in order not to make some people feel sad, but some politicians look at our hospitals, for example. It's not always that you'll be able to go for checkups outside. When you have an emergency, you'll still have to fall on those hospitals here. And we've seen what have happened to some of our politicians when that has happened. So I'll leave it there. We all day inside. The Ghanaian Times newspaper talks about the parliamentary issues. It also says, let's add value to natural resources, stop, dig and ship. Lands Minister to African countries. And we have stopped it in Ghana, right? Anyway, then there's also Daily Guide, also about the parliamentary primaries and ECOWAS. And finally, the New Finder newspaper, 18 strategic policies agreed by heads of state, business leaders to drive Africa's prosperity. In some 30 seconds, if you have any final comments, we can take it from there, and it's a wrap. Doc.
Okay, thank you. My final comment would be on the 18 strategic policies. I would entreat that it doesn't stay the policy stage. We've had African leaders sign on to programs, policies, projects that are still struggling to see reality. And so, the only exciting thing is that first and foremost, those 18 policies has been agreed upon. It's been signed on. The next stage will be for African leaders to have a concerted approach and push it and see it through. And I'm sure that once we tend to turn a lot of the policies and programs that we have on our African shelf and on our tables,
right,
I'm sure that Africa as a unit would grow. Like you said, on my idea, would stay, we would try and get it right, because eventually those that are traveling to Canada or they would end up coming back to Ghana when they're old age,
right,
when they settle and all that. So we would stay, and hopefully we'll get the hospitals, the roads, the schools, and the basic things right. And I'm sure that eventually we shall get there.
Thank you so much. Dr. Rashid Kwesi Etuafo is the NPP's parliamentary candidate for Jumako Enyan Esiam. He has been my guest this morning. Before we go into sports, and of course the AFCON is going on, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic helping us to bring you this segment. They are offering you, as always, prostate screening for men, fertility screening for women for free. Here's where you can locate them. Here in Accra at Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard. Kumasi Krono Abwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex. The Stakwade Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Tichiman Hanswa and the Siaman Zima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 323. one. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Guinea pipped Equatorial Guinea, interesting. And of course, Senegal is also set to lock horns with the Elephants of Ivory Coast. But how will things go? Details in sports up next.